Good morning. My name is Barry Kemp. I'm the head of cloud at Vox Telecom. Today we are going to be talking about the cloud, how to get to the cloud, some of the options of the cloud, and specifically So I'm going to start quickly with what is the cloud. And at its most basic definition, the cloud is a server in a data center somewhere in the world. There's data centers all over the world. There's a number of them in South Africa, a number of them that are Teracos, which we'll discuss in a second. But that's the basic definition. And when we talk about the cloud, it's something that's probably touched us every day of our lives, probably in the last couple of seconds. Obviously, you're busy watching this on a computer, and the platform you're using is actually cloud-based, so it's very relevant. When you use Facebook, when you watch a Netflix movie, when you use your Office 365, for example, those are all cloud services. Now, cloud can be something that can be used in a number of different ways, and we'll touch on those in a second, and why it's important for business to go through it. But what I want to do next is I just want to touch on who is Teraco. It's a business that's been around for quite a while, and I will touch on that in a second. But what exactly is Teraco?
Excellent. That's a good segue for me. Um, Teraco, we run data centers, and we do that really, really well. And with that comes interconnection platform as well. We don't do managed services. We don't do security. We don't go up the stack. We do effectively space, power, and cooling. And the ecosystem that has evolved from that is interconnection. We take about maybe 40% of the South African market, and we currently have, it's continually increasing, luckily for us, 160 megawatts amongst our facilities. And if you put that in perspective, you can power a three-bedroom house on 7 kilowatt generator, right? So if you take that into scale and you exponentialize that, you're looking at 160 megawatts ever growing. We have three primary centers. We've got the Cape Town market, got Joburg market, and we've got the Durban market. And that's what we do. We're very good at what we do. We have compliance certifications. We take that very seriously, from environmental and just the regular ISOs as well. We take security very seriously, and obviously uptime. We can boast never have gone down from a power perspective since our inception, which in this current economy is quite unique in South Africa. So that is very important to us, and that's what we do. Yeah, and Vox is deployed at Teraco.
So that's a good segue into what Vox provides from a cloud perspective. So we have three main products in our cloud stack that we offer. The first one is Colocation, which is, like I said, space, power, and cooling at the Teraco data centers around the country, which we offer. We also offer them in 2U being roughly that size, all the way up to full racks. And we obviously offer connectivity into those racks from a variety of different places. We also offer a virtual data center, which exactly what it says on the tin is our virtualized data center offering. So a customer can take all the equipment that's on site, move it into one of our data center, into one of our VDCs, and they get all the benefits of not having to worry about things like power and cooling and connectivity and those sort of headaches that businesses have day to day. Specifically the power one. We know that load shedding is a reality in our country, and having to keep a office data center up with a generator brings a whole bunch of extra overheads that a business doesn't need to worry about. Things like making sure the generator has diesel and serviced and all those sort of things. That's all stuff that isn't part of a day-to-day stack. And then the third part of our cloud offering is we offer backup. We're a Veeam partner, and we offer a backup repository for customers on using Veeam software, and we offer the Veeam software license as well on a monthly basis that customers can use to back up their data. Very, very relevant at the moment with ransomware attacks being quite prevalent, making sure that that's the last line of defense against a ransomware attack. From a Vox Fiber perspective, and this is also quite an important business sort of advantage with Vox, is we offer a variety of different fiber offerings. It's probably what we're most known for. Starting at 10 meg connections all the way up to 1 gig. We have a variety of different offerings in that space, dedicated and broadband. So depending on the customer's requirements, we have those options. We also offer uncapped voice on our fiber offerings, and that's also quite a nice differentiator. So a company doesn't have to go the old routes of having to monitor their calls and their call costs, because they have effectively a flat rate, which is it's quite a nice value add. As a provider, we also have our own infrastructure company through Frogfoot, so we can offer an end-to-end solution for a customer all the way from their office into our cloud, hosted at Teraco, and offer the best possible connectivity into the data center. Okay, next we're going to just quickly touch on some of the market sort of insights we see between Di and myself. Just starting with AWS ran a survey a couple of months ago where they asked a couple of IT questions in the South African IT market. And in that survey, they found 54% of the market was already using the cloud, which is quite a nice number. 24% were looking at the cloud, and only 7% didn't have a cloud strategy or were looking at the cloud solution. So that's an interesting insight, and I suspect that was mainly in the IT space, not necessarily in the rest of the business. And we'll touch on our results in a second to get some insights there. But what it does mean is that a majority of the companies are in some way looking at strategy, especially if they're in the IT side of the market. And we've got the survey results up now, and it says 74% don't have a cloud strategy, and only 26% do. So it's a good thing you guys are listening to the webinar, and hopefully you'll get some insights into how you're seeing things. Di, what are you seeing in the market from Teraco's perspective?
So I've been in South Africa just over a year, and it's allowed me a fresh look into what's happening in the market in South Africa. I came from Equinix, based out of Hong Kong, and coming in South Africa, you can see that there has been this huge acceleration in digital transformation, and this is typically a buzzword that people use, but what it really means is that data is becoming more and more important, and it's becoming more heavily consumed. We will never go back in our lifetime, I don't believe, to a time where we go back to ADSL instead of going to fiber, what you guys are offering. And data consumption is the same. From a strategy point of view, you're seeing that customers are looking at outsourcing data center management and also looking for solutions, Barry. I think that's an important thing to stress here. They're looking for one throat to choke. They're looking for voice as well as the fiber connectivity. They're looking for one managed services solution that Teraco typically is a small but critical component of, to warehouse the data that they keep, and then to bring this all together to offer a solution for the end customer. They want to focus on their business rather than worry about their architecture or their network going down or having to worry about their server room overheating. So I think that that's key. It's been overwhelmingly hybrid cloud, which is great for us, obviously, because we pivot between those two worlds, between cloud adjacency and proximity and good old colo. And I think what sets Teraco apart, and one of the reasons why we are in partnership with Fox, is that because we run data centers so well, what that has created, it has created an interconnection platform, and it's actually what we call Platform Teraco. What that allows is that in partnership with Fox, we can offer a total solution that incorporates the data center as well. So your data center needs are met, but also your managed services needs are met, your voice needs are met, your networking needs are met, and it makes it allows you to focus on your business, and we focus on ours.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that hybrid discussion, it's interesting that it's not just customers that are running servers at colo and in the cloud using one of the hyperscalers or one of our services, but it's also customers that are still running servers on site. And I think that's an important distinction.
Sure.
This is not a move everything off site. There's certain use cases where having servers and that sort of thing on site makes sense for that particular customer use case. And I think it also means that there's no one sort of solution for a customer for cloud. There's a variety of different offerings depending on what the customer needs to do, what solution you as the customer need to solve. I think that's an important distinction.
Absolutely.
So just I think it's quite important, and Teraco's position is important in this discussion. One of the most critical things about and why Vox as a provider is a really good choice is the connectivity. Your connectivity your perception of your cloud experience is heavily weighted to how good your network is into the cloud. So being Vox, we offer an end-to-end solution. We have managed services that can look after your on-site network, firewalls on the edge of your network, then the Vox fiber solution into our cloud platform, which, as we said earlier, terminates the Teraco. And that's quite an important distinction. It's basically almost a single hop from your environment on site into the cloud environment. So there's less potential for problems, bottlenecks, all of those sort of things go away. And that talks to African Cloud Exchange, which is quite a key component to the Teraco story.
For sure. So there's a couple of things that are unique at Teraco. I always beat the drum that anyone can build a data center, right? You throw enough money at that, you can get that expertise and you can draw it in. What you can't do is replicate at the top of a hat cloud adjacency, cloud proximity, and interconnection, and ecosystem density. And this is a key differentiator to anyone else in the market in Southern Africa. And what that ties into is two unique propositions that are exclusive at Teraco. One being Africa Cloud Exchange. Effectively, you've got the hyperscalers, right, that everybody knows, but also local clouds. And this is not something to be remiss about. The local clouds are very prominent. It's excellent service as well. And what Africa Cloud Exchange does is effectively it's a cloud switching fabric that allows you to determine which workloads go on which clouds and when. It's a switching fabric that is unique to Teraco, and that also then ties into an excellent consumption-based model.
And once again, it's a question of it's not one solution to fit all.
Absolutely.
You can have a mixture of Azure. You can have a mixture of virtual data center through Vox. You can connect to other providers if you needed to.
Yep.
It's all based out of that data center in
Yeah.
the different Teraco environments.
And I think a critical thing there is that Teraco is vendor neutral. So we welcome all, and one always questions why we do that. It's because we cherish the density that comes in. So you've got all the networks with us, you've got all the hyperscalers with us, and because local cloud providers usually liaise with the hyperscalers in some form or way, to be proximate to them, it makes good business sense. From a security point of view, from a performance point of view, from a latency point of view, right? Like these are all indices that everybody speaks about and uses as jargon, but when they're not there, your client will tell you that they're not there in a heartbeat, right? And this also segues us into something else that Teraco has, which is NAP Africa. So you've got Africa Cloud Exchange, which is the cloud-based side, and then you've got NAP Africa, which is the public internet. It's where we peer. And this is really where you see the Microsofts, right? You see maps going on there, locally consumed. O365, locally consumed. These are key kickers that really sets it apart, and Vox is in the middle of it. So there's no tethering in and backhauling, which is exceptional.
So effectively, if you're on Teams or your mail, you're connecting directly through your Vox fiber into NAP Africa and then directly into Microsoft for that interconnect. So
Correct.
it's really as fast as you're going to get it.
It's as close as you're going to get it.
That's a really good
Thank you.
business case. I'm just going to have a next chat about the journey to the cloud. We mentioned that earlier as one of the topics we're going to discuss. And what we're going to start with is Colo as the first step. Because there are a lot of customers, you guys, some of you on this call might be in the same boat, where you've just maybe bought brand new hardware. Maybe it's a year old, still in depreciation. You've still got 3 or 4 years of use out of those servers, and you don't want to throw them away and then move into a cloud platform, a full cloud platform. So colocation really is the first step in a journey to the cloud that involves using your existing equipment, hosting it in a data center, taking away all those headaches we discussed earlier, the power and the cooling and all of those sort of things, having a really fast connection, but not having to worry about the day-to-day data center side of things. And I think that's quite important as a use case for colocation particularly.
Absolutely. And it always comes into like, what are we trying to achieve? And you're trying to achieve performance, obviously. You're trying to have a good user experience, which to Barry's point ties back to it's only as good as your network. And this is where Vox has a unique proposition in the market. And it's to my earlier point that data consumption will only increase exponentially. And you can see that NAP Africa traffic, which is the peering platform, in 2018, it took us, you can see the accelerated growth here. And then that's not even COVID related, with everybody working from home and just needing that interconnection, right, to be able to work. You can see how quickly Teams was adopted as an example. And this will only increase. The 2.1 teras will only increase, I can assure you. And it's because it makes sense from a performance point of view, from a latency point of view, and also from a local consumption point of view. I think that's also important.
And the other thing about moving your servers into Colo as your first step is that is effectively almost the last step you're going to make into moving to the cloud. Because once you're in the cloud, the hop to get to a cloud platform like Virtual Data Center or Azure or AWS is very small because it's all in this effectively connecting through the same data center. So once you've got your servers in the cloud and you decide then to migrate to a VDC solution, it's a effectively on network connection. There's no uplink or anything that you need to worry about. You can make do the migrations really, really quickly without having to worry about the network connection holding you back necessarily.
And just to tie in on that with the graphic that we have, it'll be your last move, but you're in the thick of things, right? So it's platform Teraco that connects you to multiple clouds, multiple providers. It allows you flexibility within your strategy uh, to decide when and what you move into the cloud and how you move that into the cloud. And for this, truthfully, you need partnership. And this is where Vox comes in as well. You need partnership from someone who can handhold you through and guide you through the process of digital transformation. Most importantly, what that means for your company rather than a one size fits all.
And I suppose that also talks to the whole, and we discussed it earlier, the hybrid multi-cloud strategies that companies would have. And I think that same AWS survey mentioned 64% of companies have a hybrid strategy, which means they're going to have some equipment on site, some equipment in Colo, some equipment in a hyperscaler or a cloud provider in South Africa, which is an important sort of component of that journey. Next up, I suppose the question that a lot of you are asking is how do you get to the cloud? What is the process? How do you make it happen? And I think the starting point from our perspective is a cloud assessment. And we initially used to offer cloud assessments, but we've got to the point now where it's actually not a cloud assessment that's needed. It's actually an overall IT assessment, because you need to know what your environment looks like, obviously the important parts of your servers, making sure you know what size servers you have so you can put them into the cloud at the right scale. Because just going one-to-one from an on-site server into the cloud is a way to waste money. It's not the most efficient way of doing it. You need to understand what your consumption is on site so that you can map it back into a model that works in the cloud. And the nice thing about the cloud is it's not like the old days where you plan for 5 years' time, because that's how you bought your hardware. You buy a server expecting to use X amount of performance in 5 years' time. And that's the traditional model, and some of you on this call probably that resonates with you, because that's exactly how we used to do it. You plan for 5 years, but you buy it for today. Now, in the cloud model, you buy for tomorrow or on Friday. And if on Friday you decide you need more resources, you just increase those resources. And then if you by Tuesday you decide that you don't need those resources anymore, maybe it's over a month end, you just decrease them again, and you don't have to pay that extra sort of cost just to make sure that you've got the right capacity at the right time. And that's quite an important distinction. But also on the assessment side, you also need to know what the ancillaries in your network will handle a cloud migration. So have you got the right switching fabric in your network? Do you have the right firewalls? Do you have the right security in your network? How do people outside your network connect in? So an IT assessment will do that for you and uncover things like maybe you've got old desktops that weren't around when the cloud started. Yeah, I'm talking to those of you using XP still, where you can move on to a newer desktop platform, and Vox has a variety of solutions there as well. We have rental solutions and those sort of offerings that help you move into that next level off those XP and Windows 7 machines. Then the next part of that is who manages your cloud. So once you're in the cloud, you may have day-to-day IT tasks you need to look after. Worrying about your cloud shouldn't be one of the problems that you have to worry about day to day. You need to be worrying about business outcomes for your business, not worrying about whether your cloud is up or down. And that's where we come in as a managed provider. We offer a complete set of cloud managed services where we look after the cloud platform for you. And that includes things like the day-to-day patching and uptime and those sort of things. But it also includes sort of a level of cost management, making sure that you don't overspend in the cloud. The cloud can be a very, very expensive solution if you don't manage it properly. And we have the sort of guardrails in place to make sure that you don't overspend on your budget. In our virtual data center offering, we have a sort of, we call it a soft cap, so you can't blow through your budget. There was a story that went around of a major retailer that went on to one of the hyperscalers. Their first month's bill was $7,000. The next month's bill was $100,000. So you really don't want to end up in that sort of massive blow past your budget. So we have a variety of handrails in place to stop that. And I think the overall message is you concentrate on your business and we worry about the cloud. That's sort of the key message there. Next up, our next poll, which is going to go out. What are your top priorities when driving the digital transformation? It's a multiple choice survey that's going up now. So just give us your feedback on what you think the priorities are for your digital transformation. And next, we're going to just have a quick chat about certification, specifically compliance and those sort of things. That's becoming quite important in the market at the moment. How does Teraco deal with those certification requirements?
We obviously take that very seriously, and we also look at the world standard. We run a top-notch operation. We have ISO certifications, and also one of the key ones is PCI DSS, which is the payments gateway side of things. So I think a critical thing there is to look at it as it was what the industry demanded us to do, and that has enabled financial ecosystems to grow within Teraco. And likewise, other ecosystems grow because of that as well, right? And what our goal for that is that from a data center point of view, we allow that to be as a value add to Vox, what they offer into the market, and to give a total solution as well, so that whatever certifications we have, Vox can absorb. If it's some of them will overlap with ISO 271, but there's others that we will have because that's our side of the business that Vox doesn't need, but complementary. It gives the solution to the end customer that is required.
So effectively, it gives us that full stack of certification.
Absolutely.
So Vox is also ISO 27001 certified. And that means, just for those of you that don't know what ISO 27001 is, that's an information security certification. Effectively, it means we have the right processes and procedures and manuals in place to make sure that information for our customers is securely stored, managed, all of those sort of tasks are taken care of. And because obviously Teraco has that certification, so do we. The end-to-end stack is effectively ISO certified. There are also a couple of other certifications that both Teraco and Vox has. ISO 9001, which is a quality certification. We both have that standard, and that's a mark of the quality service we offer to our customers. So we have, once again, procedures and policies in place to make sure we offer a quality service to our customer base. And that's a very important distinction, especially in the financial services space, because there are certain requirements there that are critical to running those sort of businesses. I think next, can we have a chat about why Vox and Teraco are partners?
Absolutely.
And how we deal with that.
So what we've been seeing more and more in the market is that the end customer is looking for a solution, for a total solution. They're not looking for product sets per se. And Teraco is very good in our niche. We run data centers, and a direct result of data center operational excellence is interconnectivity, right? Which interconnectivity basically evolved from all the networks needed a place to connect in the World Wide Web. Then all the content providers came along because they needed the networks to move their content around.
So that's when you watch your Netflix at home and it's a really clear stream. That's because it's coming out of one of your data centers.
That's exactly why, because it's locally consumed, right? And then because of that, now you've got the density of all the networks and all the content providers, and then come the hyperscalers and the local cloud providers, and then you find little ecosystems building on top of that. So all the banks suddenly come in because of, and not just because of PCI DSS, but also because of general benefits, right? Performance, latency, security, like everything happens within our four walls. You'll see agriculture, you'll see mining, you'll see retail. These are all verticals that can also interconnect with each other. And now this is the kicker, because Vox is with us. Vox has that ecosystem that will offer it to you, which is spectacular.
So that's actually a good representation they've got on the screen now of all the different connectivities that happen through Teraco, that's available to a Vox customer because of the interconnection components.
And because it's end-to-end, and because it's effectively a cross-connect within our four walls, There's no capacity limit. So there's no tethering in and backhauling. And this is quite critical, especially from an end-to-end solution. Is you've got to look at the total solution cost as well and viability and what you're looking to achieve. And typically, that is, which tags into the pull, is what are you looking to achieve? Is it network optimization, and how is that defined? What does good look like, right? Is it security? A lot of people talk about security. Some are very serious about it, others are not. And security is one of those things that's like, it's great when everything's fine until it's not. And you want to have your ship in order there.
So I think there was 49% on that poll that was
Was it
enhanced security was one of
Yeah,
the priorities in
yeah.
the business.
And you could see it with the guys that we speak to, with the C-suite. This is what drives their decision making, right? It's there's a couple of things. It's flexibility. It's making sure that they're future proofed. It's making sure that they're not just dealing with something now, but also that they can upscale. And this is to Barry's point. Like, you can plan for tomorrow or for Friday, but you can also plan for later, because Teraco has the space. So it allows that flexibility that you want from multiple clouds, multiple networks, and value offerings. And I think this is a unique position that Vox is in the market.
So on those poll results, was 49% was enhanced security.
Yeah.
Then the second highest was network optimization, and that's an important component of the connectivity story that Vox has.
Yeah.
The end-to-end solution from your premise all the way up into the cloud. Whether it's colocation, whether it's hyperscaler, whether it's virtual data center, that's an important component. And making sure, but there's actually an extra step there that I just want to touch on for a second, because it's relevant at the moment with a lot of people working from home, and that's actually almost the home network now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have IT departments, and some of you on the call may have the same problem, where you're you've got your staff distributed at home, and now you're having to worry about the network at home connecting into the cloud. Obviously, Vox has FTTH solutions for fiber to the home solutions that can assist there, but it's becoming that extra critical component of network optimization. It's not anymore just the fiber at your office. It's now a mix of people at home, people at the office, maybe people at internet cafes or
Absolutely.
coffee shops. That's sort of the default office these days.
True.
So that's an interesting take on that. So I just want to quickly touch on some of the other Vox services that might be interesting to you, and then while we're busy with that, put some questions into the chat if you've got any things that you want to ask us that are relevant. We'll answer them. So Vox, as an end-to-end provider, we offer obviously the connectivity solutions, starting with Vox Fiber. We have wireless solutions. We have ADSL, LTE. ADSL is slowing down a bit, but we've got solutions for that space. LTE is quite relevant for the mobile workforce. We also offer a full voice solution. PBX is in the cloud, PBX is on site, and voice minutes. We have physical and on cyber security, so full security stack. We are a Fortinet Platinum partner, so we offer the full Fortinet stack, and that's important because we offer that full end-to-end solution. Then we offer the full managed services stack, and we touched on that earlier with the cloud solutions, but we also offer managed services for on-site. We offer managed firewalls, which is quite an important component, making sure your network is secure. We offer the backup solutions, we touched on that earlier, and obviously with a fiber connection and all of that terminated at Teraco, we offer that really fast connection for a backup. So instead of your backups taking 2 days to perform, we can, across the Vox Fiber, if you've got the right network speed, you can get it into the cloud in a couple of hours, a couple of minutes sometimes, depending on the speed that you take, because you can go to 1 gig, and then it's basically like it's on the network. And then lastly, we have a full IT platform that we offer as well, with a variety of different offerings there. So I think next, do we have any questions that we can answer? So first question, how do I protect myself against ransomware? So that is really an open-ended question, because it's like the solutions are, it's quite a layered approach. So you need to have things like your antivirus up to date, making sure you've got the right antivirus solution. Some of the next generation antivirus solutions around are important from a ransomware perspective. You need to educate your staff. You need to make sure they don't go click on some of the dodgy links that appear. And that also includes email security, something like Mimecast, where it scans through your emails, picks up those dodgy links, and then either blocks them or it gives a warning to the user not to click on it. that then you end up with a firewall solution, so you're making sure that you've got the firewall covered. And once again, we're a FortiGate partner, and they have a variety of different solutions, next generation firewalls, to make sure that the network's completely protected. But then the last line of defense against ransomware is your backups, making sure you have the right backups, that they are off-sited. So having the backups on site isn't really going to work if you have a fire or maybe a theft and they steal the backup media. So having them off-sited into a cloud solution makes a lot of sense. And it also makes sense that it's called air gaps, and that's a term that gets bandied around. But effectively that means that somebody that gets into the network can't access the backup files. And that is important because we've seen this in the past with a number of the bigger hacks. When a hacker gets into a network, they'll find those backup files and delete them. That's one of the first things they do because they don't want you to be able to recover. And that's why it's so important to have them off-site in a cloud store somewhere that it's completely impermeable to a hacker, to an attacker. Anything to add on the ransomware side?
Pretty much covered it.
Okay, this is quite a long question. Does this only relate to big data kind of business? We're a fairly small type of non-profit, but value the security of our data to the nature of our business. Our current cloud strategy is to move to the Microsoft cloud, mainly based in Cape Town. So no, it's not just big data. The cloud solutions we offer are not aimed necessarily at big data. They're aimed at any size business, from a small SME that has a couple of, or a non-profit, all the way up to large corporates. We've got a solution set that fits into all of those stacks. And once we do an assessment, we can give you a good idea, but it's not a expensive offering. There's a misconception in the market that cloud is automatically expensive, and it isn't. The cost of cloud has come down dramatically, and it's not the preserve of enterprises and big corporates. It's down to small business. We have customers that have 10 users that are in our cloud environment, and it's much more cost effective sometimes than going and buying new hardware all the time. And that's an important distinction. And also what's important is people mustn't just worry about things, the actual IT hardware that they buy. They need to also worry about the cost of power, the cost of actually maintaining those services, the cost of actually having floor space in your office dedicated to your servers or your data center, depending on the size of your business. So those are all important. Okay, next up, and I think this is a question you can answer. How secure is my server at Teraco?
Very. That's the short answer to it. I think Teraco's got about 5 layers before you even get in. I think it's important to differentiate between what Teraco does and what. So we don't do managed services. We don't do software. Look, that's not our game. When you come into a Teraco facility, you will have to register with your ID number and your name as is it on your ID number, or you simply won't be allowed access. And then there's biometrics. Depending on the security of your server, how you can opt for open colo, you can opt for a caged environment. The point being is that depending on the demand that you put on your data security, we can facilitate that from a physical point of view. So we have a lot of customers that, some take halls, and others will have a caged environment where they have their own log, and only their people can access the servers. So Teraco staff wouldn't even go in there because it's caged, and they will have the log of who comes in and who comes not with a gate or a trapdoor or biometric. So from a security point of view, 100%, obviously perimeter into the building, going through man traps, making sure that everything that is that could be compromised will be monitored. Lifts, obviously like the back door entrances, front door entrances. Surprisingly, people forget about the front door entrances. But this is, I would say we are probably one of the most secure. I don't want to jinx anything right now, but probably one of the most secure in the country. Yeah.
But sort of leagues above what most businesses would have from a security in an office park or.
Oh goodness me. Yeah. The fact that this is our bread and butter. If one of our facilities obviously gets compromised, it has a huge impact on our customers as well. So we take this very, very seriously, and we run a very tight ship when it comes to this. And it's not it goes far beyond human resource that secures perimeters. It's all phases, and it will always exceed what typically, not always, typically what you can do as an enterprise to secure your own data. And it really ties into like what your strategy is as well. Do you want to run your own server room? Do you want to have the resources in-house to do that, or is that a part that you want to outsource so that you can open up that budget and that time to fire drill other things in the business rather than worry about the operational side of a data center?
And I suppose from the Vox perspective, the security on the cloud platform is, once again, we have this ISO certification. We have a security team in place that monitors that environment, makes sure it's secure. All our customer environments sit behind firewalls. Customers have their own firewalls in their virtual data center, for example, or in their colo. They may run for example, a FortiGate. So the cloud is often more secure than anybody can do on site, because there's more resources available to make sure it's secure. And there's specialist resources. It's not just and there are some companies that may have 2 or 3 IT guys. One of those guys might be responsible for security, but that's not their day-to-day focus. Whereas in cloud environments, well, Teraco obviously has their specialists in the physical security space, and we have the specialists in the cybersecurity space, making sure that you have the best possible firewalling rules, all of those sort of things in place to make sure the data is secure. But yeah, that's the answer there. Next question. How easy it is for a company to migrate? How easy is this migration for a company that's not IT focused? So the migration process is actually a very, I'm not going to say it's a simple process because it's not simple, but we have a team that's been doing this for a number of years now. They focus specifically on cloud migrations. Some of that is, for example, migrating email into Office 365. That's part of their offering. But it's also moving cloud servers into the cloud. So taking on-site infrastructure, data, moving it into the cloud. And what we do is we work with the customer to understand what you guys as customers need to, or when you want it to happen. So, for example, we're not going to do it on 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. We'll do it over a weekend or at night, depending on the customer. And normally what happens is we would do the data migration over a number of weeks beforehand using a number of different tools we have. One of them is actually the Veeam backup software, where we actually back the data up. And we do one final backup, and then we restore it into the cloud. But it means that we can do large amounts of data through the sort of weeks up to the migration date. And then on migration date, we only do the data that's changed into the cloud. If the customer doesn't have a really nice Vox fiber link, we have a couple of other solutions using network attached storage devices or external hard drives, depending on the data size, to actually physically move that data into the cloud. But once again, the teams we do this have been doing it for a number of years. They really are experts in their space when it comes to migrations. And I suppose the question that also needs to be asked is how to migrate a physical server. And that's once again, our team can assist with some of those worries. But as a business, you do need to worry about things like making sure you have the right removals company, especially if it's a big server migration into something like Teraco, with air suspension to make sure the servers don't get knocked around, with the right insurances in place. That's very critical for businesses. And then at Teraco, you've got the right sort of onboarding process to get customers in with elevators and
Yes, absolutely. From a physical point of view, we can support that at world-class level, right? So we have a number of international customers that also will dictate how we even build our facilities, right? I think what's important here to tie back on that question is that I think there's this perception in the market that everything has to be expensive and is only reserved for the cream of the crop here. But in fact, it's not. And in fact, this is what partnership comes into. This is where Vox will play a critical role in the market, I feel, in South Africa, where you need someone that can advise, that can architect, that can consult, can actually listen to what your needs are rather than trying to push a product for you, right? And that from that, you translate that back out and like, what does that solution look like for you? What you need is not what, like a multi-billion rand bank needs. So I think that is critical, and you've got to see that it meets your needs, but not just for today, also for the future, so that you are future-proof, so that you have the flexibility to grow as and when you want to remain current to that question.
So the next question that's come through is what redundancy is in place? And now that's probably a two-part question. And maybe you want to touch on quickly on the power side at Teraco if you were co-locating. What sort of redundancy is in place from a power perspective?
We've got dual. We have to my point earlier, from a power point of view, is we effectively run our own substations. Everything is built so that there's the dual feed in there, which effectively means that from a power point of view, we will not go down. And this is unique in the market. There's a lot that are designed, perhaps, and a lot I think is being generous. There's several that are designed that way, but none that operate that way. And I think that's just an interesting misconception in the market as well, because it also depends on what you're looking for, right? Again, ties into your strategy. Is redundancy important? The answer should be yes, because who wants to go down? And there's others that will claim it, but operationally can't do it. So there'll be outages, and no one wants that in the market. Like no one wants your peers to go down that way. But I think it's important to understand that at Teraco, the redundancy from a power point of view has been architected, right? Like our purpose built for this. This is what butters our bread. So, and it's important that our customers do not go down. So that's from our play, a redundancy.
So I suppose from our perspective, that our entire cloud infrastructure obviously sits at Teraco. So we benefit from that power redundancy. But we also have our own redundancy in place. We have the ability to have VDC, virtual data center, in both data centers, in two different data centers in Joburg. So a customer can have replication between the two different data centers. And that's quite it's not a unique offering because a lot of the other cloud providers offer it, but it's very important for a lot of businesses. Downtime is something that we touched on earlier, nobody wants, and trying to make sure that you architect so that your solution is completely redundant is important. And we offer that offering to have solutions in both data centers. We also do some clever things with our backups so that the backups aren't in the same data center as the cloud itself, which is quite important. And then the infrastructure that it runs on is redundant in other ways. When it comes to the storage array, that's multiple different levels of redundancy. Our computer's all redundant. So if we have for example, one host go down, it automatically works that load into different other hosts so that the customer doesn't see a downtime in the environment, which is obviously quite important.
And I think just to close that loop is when you're asking redundancy, what you should really ask for is operational redundancy and ask for those metrics with the data center, because very often you'll get a association versus an actual statistical result, like this is what the numbers show. And you can't stress enough that truly is one of the most critical things. It's compliance usually, and it's anyone can do space, power, and cooling, right? Well, not the power part, because that really is, you can't go down. Like our business cannot go down in that sense. When that happens, it's bad for our industry. And at Teraco, we take that incredibly seriously, and we are very fortunate that we can boast that we haven't since inception.
Very impressive stat, that. Okay, how does Vox manage my budget overruns? So we touched on it a bit earlier. With the VDC, the Virtual Data Center Cloud, we specifically concentrate on making sure that a customer can't blow through their budget. And we offer, on the invoicing side, a complete breakdown of what servers are costing what. That sounds a bit strange. What each server costs and the components. So how much does the CPU cost, how much does memory cost, how much does storage cost individually, so a customer can easily see what their overall cloud cost is. And that's an important component. And then, like I said earlier, we have a soft cap that we have. So a engineer can't blow past the budget when it comes to the cloud. And then we have a managed services cost management program that actually manages the cost in not just our VDC or virtual data center cloud, but in Azure as well. So we have the ability to manage the Azure costs for customers as well. And that can be quite expensive if you don't get it right, particularly from an Azure side. And it's important to understand what the different cost elements are in an Azure environment. Okay, I think that's all for the webinar today. Thank you for attending. Thank you to Dai for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you've got some insights into some of the topics we've discussed. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'll be happy to have a chat. Some of the insights we've discussed, or just a general chat on the cloud, or some of the products that we offer to the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you.